The digital world is merging with the physical world. The best of both is now being combined into a mixed reality. This will make the future of media and content interactive and immersive. While the internet gave us access to unlimited information, this merge will make it possible to experience everything, anywhere, anytime, and any place. Please welcome our next guest on the future of media and entertainment. Peter Vindevogel, CEO of Streams. Jeroen Bronselaer, CEO of SBS. And Philippe de Scooter, CEO of the Park Playground.
Welcome, Philippe, Jeroen, Peter. Thank you for joining us this evening and for sharing your insights on the future of media and entertainment. Streams, SBS, and The Park are all customer-oriented companies, and technology is changing very fast. Jeroen, how do you deal with that, and how do you stay connected with your customers?
Yeah, indeed, technology is changing very fast, but I think for broadcast television or television, it's actually an opportunity. Because don't forget, we were a traditional broadcast medium, very linear, very one way, and now we have a lot of opportunities to actually get into contact with our viewers. So it's an opportunity, but of course you have to grab it. I think one basic thing that everybody's doing in the broadcast world is to be on digital platforms, to get, of course, to get registered accounts, and then you can start collecting data. That's good for assessing viewership, and that's good for serving better ads. But it's also a mind shift, because it also means that as a broadcaster, now you have to, for every second of the day, you have to be ready to answer the questions that your viewers are asking you. You know, they used to do it through a yellow postcard, the gele briefkaart, and that took a long while to answer. But today they're on social media, they're emailing you, they're interacting through all of these digital platforms, and it takes a mind shift. We have to organize ourselves towards that. It's not that difficult. We are entertainment people, so we like to talk about our trade and our programs, but we have to make sure that we have the systems to take all of these questions into account and then have the answers brought back to them immediately.
Yeah. And Philippe, how is that for you at the park?
Yeah, well, basically the park, it starts from scratch, and virtual reality, it's coming at a hype. So it had a very strong hype cycle where first now it was slower, but now it's really a very strong market adoption that is starting. But it also means that it's completely unknown territory on what people exactly, what they want, what they're looking for. We've been really lucky that it was a great success from the start. So we were hitting on the right nail. So that was a good thing. But in order to really progress doing so and becoming better and better, we really had to install a lot of data touch points to really make sure that the customer can really voice what he wants, what he likes, what he dislikes, and so that it helps us to shift forward, making the right choices.
And you do that at the playground itself, or you send an email afterwards? Because I think an email is much more difficult to get people to give feedback, or?
Yeah, well, basically at the park we try to have as many data touch points as we can have. So, for example, we will even survey them in virtual reality. Okay. So after that they finish the experience, they can still stay in it and shoot at the answers of what they liked and disliked. Okay. We will also measure how many kills or how many objects that they found, etc. So really the in-game performance, and then it will be tracked with surveys that we do afterwards at the bar, because obviously at the park you can also have drinks, etc. and enjoy yourself. And then afterwards even we will indeed do a follow-up mailing for additional promo codes or what have you, to get even additional insights. And then everything will be cross-matched so that we know someone who clearly had difficulty in the game, he likes the game this way or this way, he likes that aspect or whatever.
Okay. Peter, Streams recently launched. What's your take on this?
Well, of course, Lauren, technology is actually the engine of a revolution that has been ongoing these past years in entertainment. The revolution called streaming. And what you saw was that actually biggest part of that revolution was driven by international players, especially here in our local market.
Yeah.
While we Flemish families, we really love our local content. So we said there's certainly room, there's certainly a market for a local streaming services that combined really a really strong local offer with a strong international offer. And that's what we made with Streams. And it, of course, means that we continuously combine entertainment and technology in our product. Both are at the heart of our product. And it means that we're on a continuous development with the product, working actually in sprints of 14 days, continuously changing our streaming experience in a very close and direct interaction with the customer.
Absolutely. Jeroen, Telenet works a lot with partnerships. Why do you do that?
Because we believe that you can't change the world on your own anymore. I think it has been different for a long time. Flanders had, certainly in the media industry, we had the benefit for years to be kind of an entertainment reference, Asterix village. A small village, we couldn't get attacked, it was super local, people loved Flemish content, international players didn't really care about us, and they had no success in our market. But that, of course, has totally changed. The Flemish consumer now is a global consumer. And that has sped up and is only speeding up. And in that kind of a landscape, the speed of evolution is so big, the challenges that face you are so big, and honestly, competition that you are faced with is so strong that you have to cooperate. It is impossible even for a company like Telenet, because sometimes it feels like Telenet is very big, but it's a very big fish in a relatively small pond. And we walk with dinosaurs. If you look at the GAFAN, but even other broadcasters in Europe or either other telcos will be a lot bigger. They will have more resources to buy content. They will have more resources to invest in that technology that we were talking about. And it's not all rocket science, but the way you do UI, the way you do search and recommendation, the way you do VR, the code you develop, it is a differentiator. It is your key differentiator. And to do all of that on your own in one company or buy everything, it is impossible. It becomes so specialized that is the new way to go. And we really changed our mindset. It's a few years ago, I think up until 2015, 16, Telenet was relatively monolithic. It was also in growing cable and we install things, but then we made a mind shift and we now think that the internet has become like the basic layer on which all experiences can build, but we do believe that we will not build them on their own. So we partner with people who are good in starting up ventures like we did with the Park, or with DPG, another content player like we did with Streams, or with other ad-selling companies like we will do very soon with the joint venture on advertising that we started. And there's more to come.
Great. You all lead 3 different types of companies. We have a joint venture, a big corporate, and a corporate venture. I imagine that these different types of companies also need different types of leadership, Peter?
Yes, absolutely. We're a very special kind of company because we're a joint venture on one hand of 2 big companies, and on the other hand, we're kind of a startup with really the need for speed that a startup has. So that's a very special combination because what we're bringing together in our company is 2 cultures. From people who often have worked a lot of their time in corporate companies, so they're not really used to the spirit of a startup. Yeah. So what we see is that we need to build our own new culture. We're bringing in new people that have also experienced more in small companies, startup companies, because we really need that speed. But as a manager, I've also learned that it's not my speed that is leading, it's the speed of the group of the people that is leading. And so as fast as I want to run, I need to stop once in a while, look back and see if everyone is following.
And was it difficult to implement a new culture in that dynamic?
It's actually an ongoing exercise. We're doing it every day again. It's not like you say you start a company. This is the culture, right? You build it every day, and every day again you of course start from a common belief, and you encounter challenges that where you say maybe this is not the way we want to work. So, but if you have like us, if you have a really ambitious project where you all believe in and you all go for the same goal, that's already a very, very good base to build a good culture.
It's a very important first step, indeed. Philippe, what's your take on leadership?
Yeah, the Park really as it started from inception, we knew we were in a very fast-paced innovation landscape. So we had to move really, really fast. And so what you do from start is then build your sort of a dashboard, your metrics, by which you try to track based on data how well you're performing. But recently that shifted to an interesting transition from a data-driven approach to more a people management that I had to do. There was an exercise I had to perform myself. Because you do see that while the data can give you the impression that everything is going well, it's still the mindset of the people that will decide the long-term success of your business. And thereby there was a very important shift to make sure that you listen really thoroughly to all your people and that you sort of create a very lateral structure in which everyone also feels safe to voice their concerns and that they dare to say and that they dare to speak up when something is wrong. And that was really a very intense exercise, but it's very promising for what it will bring us going forward.
Yeah, I think it's very important to keep touch with your employees. Jeroen, at SBS, how do you deal with such a big company?
Well, I've dealt with bigger because Telenet is bigger, and I come from the Telenet side. I did VRT, I did Telenet, I'm now at SBS. But I think relatively to my two colleagues, it's indeed a big company. I think Peter already touched upon some things that are important. I think the bigger your company is, the more important as a leader it is to create the culture and set the direction. Because you cannot do it all on your own anymore. It is indeed impossible. You have to make sure that everybody gets along, but it's even more than that. Because I think that in the world we're living in, leadership itself is changing a little bit. Again, I talked about it. The world is so complex, change is so fast, that the model where you have the leader that plants the flag and then has to just make sure that everybody gets there by, hey, follow me, I don't think that's the truth anymore. That's why I like the culture setting. Culture setting is something that you do from the front, from the side, and from the back. It's all around. And you make sure that people move in the same direction, but not necessarily by just saying this is the solution. Because for me it's impossible, not only by the size of the company, but also by the nature of the challenges we face and all the different kinds of solutions we have to find. I kind of have to trust my people. So you have to create the culture where everybody can function, a bit like what Philippe said. And in some times it is more important than in others. In times of change, bringing people together, in times of crisis. But it's always important. Culture trumps strategy, as John Porter always says. So very inspiring. And I do honestly believe that is true. And then I think you have to create a setting. The bigger your organization is, but even for small organizations, it is true today. We at Telenet, we have a lot of coaches and consultants who talk to us. Something that is a buzzword now with us is servant leadership. It's creating a framework where you give the direction, where you tell people this is what expected of you, but where you try to give them the room to come with the solutions, right? And then of course challenge and then have the debate, but make your company less dependent on the great minds of a few, but on the great minds of many. And that's what I'm trying to do at SBS. It's an entertainment company. There's already a lot of people with a very strong opinion and very big expertise. So there's very big basics to do there. But I believe we could get stronger if we get better at it. And I believe it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for every company.
Absolutely.
Because the world is changing, so leadership should change as well.
As you're saying, the world is changing. We have COVID-19 right now. Philippe, what has been the impact of the corona crisis on innovation?
But I think Corona has been a digital accelerator. If I take a very simple example, for example, my parents, who really weren't the most tech-savvy people, before they didn't have anything and they would never do food delivery or whatever. They recently obviously took a Streams account and they love it. And so they have been pushed to embrace technology as different types for logistics, but also for home entertainment, and also VR is a part of this, where they were initially in a sort of an uncomfortable stretch where they need to find, but they then see the bigger advantage of it. And that has led to an adoption that will last for the longer term. So in that case, COVID was really nice to the park as an entertainment venue. But in the long stretch, it will definitely bring us many, many good results.
Let's hope. Jeroen, also due to the corona crisis, all of a sudden the schedule of the programs shuffled upside down. Also, it was harder for the production companies to get the programs delivered in time. How did you tackle that as a company?
Yeah, but I think by a lot of hard work and a lot of passion by everybody. Again, I think it's everywhere, but media sector is something like people just they will go day and night. I've seen it at the park also, by the way, and I've also seen it at streams on media. But people will work day and night to make it work. But you see that in times of crisis, it always drives innovation. It can be very small innovation in how can we find out to do this or this take, or this setting, or we have to build a decor with all the COVID rules. But they found a way. It also challenges you a little bit. You can take risks. I mean, we had huge debates with the people of the Slimste Mens, whether or not the Slimste Mens would work without public. Because the public and the interaction of the public
was very important. Yeah.
For the makers, it was super important. They said, but we're not sure. And then you have to give people the room to say, listen, we're going to try it, and we do believe that it will work. But if it doesn't work, it's also okay. So you have to give them the opportunity. They didn't fail because it was the best season ever, by the way. And also they got over it. You felt that the format was so strong. And then for me, the example is Container Cup.
Absolutely.
Which is where it's not innovation that solves a problem, where the crisis just tapped into that creativity of these makers, and they came up with a format that is so onbeat that's really the beauty of entertainment. When you are so onbeat with society, like everybody was at home, all the fitnesses were closed, no sport competitions, all of the sporters were in the newspapers, I'm bored, I cannot do this, I miss it. And then you come up with something like Container Cup, which is then a COVID setting. Everybody's bored of COVID setting, but you take a COVID setting and you make a sports competition out of it, and it's in all the newspapers, and will Van Aert beat this in seconds. And that's just brilliant. That's brilliance, right? But it starts with solving problems. There's innovation in that. The makers of the Slimste Mens now know that they can even go without public. They will return, but they know that they can. And Container Cup just is a brilliant format. So it's on all levels, I think. Yeah. It's human creativity.
Absolutely. And many of your products are produced in our country. Is it actually a conscious choice, Peter, to use local talent?
Yeah, of course. As I said, Streams is a unique combination of local and international content, and has started from the strong belief and from the fact that Flemish families love their local content. But they don't only love their local content, we also make great content in Flanders. I mean, we have fantastic production houses, we have great actors, great directors, and I think often we're too humble, actually. What we see is that the local content on Streams is doing as well as the big international content of HBO. And we're producing content that has the power to travel internationally. I mean, Red Light is now the new Streams hero. Many people on Streams have seen it already. And I'm sure that it will have a lot of international sales.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was an amazing co-production also with the Netherlands.
With the Netherlands.
Are there more projects coming up with the Netherlands?
Well, you know, when we're talking about producing fiction, you always need to find or make a puzzle of different financing partners, and so you often go in co-production, either with broadcasting companies, either with other countries. So we have a very good relationship with our partners in the Netherlands, Videoland, which is the local streaming service of the Netherlands. We're starting to build relationships with Salto in France. We have a relationship with Viaplay in the Scandinavian countries. So yes, there will be more co-productions coming up.
Great. I think many students at home will be very happy. Philippe, you also play with local content. You made a game on the Dag, a very important Flemish series. How important is local content for you?
Well, for us, indeed, it was a very strong traffic driver, as we saw it with the Dag, but also with the Mol, on what we've been able to bring, but also indeed like the type of quality that we can tap into locally. It's not just that we take local content because it's cheaper or because it's only relevant in Belgium and we're in Belgium and Netherlands. It's just because I think that the talented ecosystem for innovation and creation that we have in Flanders is vastly underestimated. Yeah. And we can see this in the type of the quality that we can deliver and bring and compete on a global scale with other partners. So I really don't think that youth should go and try to find their ways to Dublin and go work for the Facebooks or whatever. I think really that in Flanders, and where it be at the park, obviously, but the streams, the SBSs, the Telenets or whatever of today can really have the type of talented structures that bring amazing things.
Jeroen, have you something to add to what Philippe says?
First of all, thank you for the great tip, Philippe. Never go to Facebook. Always go local media. That's super important. I don't have a lot to add. I totally agree with Peter that we are sometimes too humble. And when I talked about the world is becoming global and the market's becoming global, and that's a threat, it is also an opportunity. I think I agree with Philippe. We have a gigantic creative sector. And it's a tradition of years and years. I mean, it started with comic books and drawings and writers and television makers, and now it's production houses or game developers, but we are storytellers from nature, and we have this in our culture. But we are also very humble. It's a bit more difficult for SBS because we're a broadcaster. We have to be local. We have to be on beat. So the programs we make, the shows we do, whether it's fiction or if ever we get into some kind of news, we have to be there because that's what makes it talked about. That's what will bring people to our channels to play, play with FPSS, because it's more relevant, and that's something that the international players will have a harder time matching to really feel what lives in Flanders. But for production houses or services like Streams or the Park, indeed, you should work with the local talent and then open up your mind. So start local and then beat Facebook.
and then go globally.
And then beat Facebook or buy Facebook, but that's a very big ambition.
Philippe, nowadays companies have a lot of data. How important is that data, and how do you analyze this immense quantity of information?
Yeah, for us it's crucial for the existence of our business because the park, it is a startup, so we're not immensely funded, but we have a very ambitious track that we want to follow on, and we need to innovate constantly. And each innovation that we do requires a lot of cash investment. So that also means that every investment that we do has to be the right one. We don't have the luxury to fail. Little tiny ones. Yeah. But the major decisions we make, they have to be on spot. And therefore, we use data to make sure that we listen to the customers, we listen to the people that also, or internally, but also externally, on everything that is happening and all the different dynamics and pivoting that the industry is taking to allow us to make sure that we make the right bets. And that requires calculation and requires data touch points that make sure that push us in the right direction.
And Jeroen, what is the importance of data in SBS and Telenet?
Well, I think, Telenet and SBS, same thing. If you look at our consumers, we try and get better in touch with our consumers. And we do it by explaining our products, but there's also a lot of marketing automation. Telenet will take data and will then try and analyze your behavior, the things you order, what you watch, to get the next best offer or even the next best action to you. Because we also learned it's not always about bringing commercial offers. It's also bringing the next best action to people. So like saying, if you want more out of your product, you should do this. Try this feature. You have not used these gigabytes for last month, so maybe it's not the right thing for you or something else. If you do it always too commercially, it's not okay because people will see through it. Consumers are becoming more critical. I think a lot of that we should learn at SBS. I talked about we now have all these accounts. We have more than 2 million registered accounts on all of our websites and on GoPlay. But when it comes to the marketing automation part and bringing people closer to our content by interacting with them on these platforms and sending them messages, we still have a long way to go, but we can learn from what Telenet does. And I think from companies like the Park, a lot of startups are a lot more data-driven. So we don't have to reinvent the hot water. And then, of course, at the final side, SBS, also we sell data, of course, in a way. We are an advertising company. The data we sold was SIM-driven. We had big reach, and then SIM told us these are the segments in there. Now we're venturing into a world where we have to even tell that ourselves to our advertisers. So we have to get smarter. I think our biggest challenge will be today, we have this segmentation. It's starting to build on TV on TV separately, on online separately. But we should get to a kind of cross-media measurement. And it's actually an ambition that we have with a lot of the media, not only at SBS. It's at DPG, it's even at the print publisher sites. if we could measure better in Flanders where people are actually watching and how it travels and which segments there are, which consumers there are, that would enrich our media advertising ecosystem tremendously. It is something that, again, the joint venture, the advertising joint venture we are setting up, will try to do across Mediahuis, sites of the VRT, the SBS channels. But hopefully we can even do it with the entire sector. And then if you're so smart, you have all of these segments, it's good for big advertisers, but it also opens up a market for very small advertisers.
Yeah.
Because today, if you're a super small advertiser, you want to have a small segment of, I don't know, cycling dads in Liedekerke. TV is not the medium for you, it's impossible, there is too much waste. But if we go addressable TV, and we can identify that segment in a smart way, then for the small cycling shop in my street in Liedekerke, I live there, he could actually buy for a very correct price. It might be a high price per user, but it might only be 10 customers, but he could send that very specific message to them. And that's kind of a dream. And if you can then connect it over all of the local media, it would be super brilliant.
Absolutely. We're rounding up. I have one final question for you. Entrepreneurship is about trial and error. Do you have any wise words of advice for our students at home, Peter?
Yeah, you know, when I was a student, I was always a bit stressed when they asked me, what do you want to be in 10 years or 20 years or even later? Because I really didn't know. I've learned along the way that actually that's an important question, what you will be in 10 or 20 years. You don't have to know. You don't have to. We always get an image projected that you need to know the path up front which you will follow. It's not true. Just follow your heart, do what you like to do, choose a job where you think that your heart lies, and then you will find out what you like, what your skills are, what your talents are, and you will evolve yourself too, and then again you will find the next phase in your life and in your job. So
follow your
jump.
passion. Just jump. Philippe.
Yeah, well, I think it would be dare to fail. It's so interesting to fail. My first startup in which I was involved was Take It Easy, a company that after I started there went bankrupt after 9 months. Okay, that's not a pleasant thing. I'm not masochistic on that level, or any level actually. No, for the partners involved, but it was super interesting as an experience to have, and I learned a lot from it, and everything, even the things I do today. And as a student, your cost of failing is basically zero. In your first year of experience that you will do elsewhere, you will build up very little savings. You will likely not buy an apartment straight away. You don't have children. You're not married. You don't have anything. So there's nothing to lose. And so the upside of failing or taking that risk is tremendous versus the downside that you risk to have. So it would be just to go and try.
Jeroen?
I think you
That's
have the
yours?
2 starting tips. Do what you love. You don't know what you're going to be. Well, some people, but do what you love and dare to fail, take risk. I'll give a tip that comes a little bit later in the process, or came a little bit later in the process for me. I think a lot of the people we're talking to today are probably also go-getters, like very passionate, smart people, ambition. If they follow their passion, and if they dare to fail, they'll go a long way. There will be a point in which it's not, your success will not be defined anymore by what you can do. There will be a point in which you can't do it alone anymore. I encountered such a point where it was a very big negotiation. I worked super hard, but I went to the verge of what would today be a burnout. But I only realized afterwards, and I also realized afterwards saying, oh, wait a minute, I was too much the center of everything. You have to also involve other people, take them along. Be aware, I think, for that moment, not for the first few years of your career. Do what you love and go at it full force and take all kinds of risks. But be wareful for that moment. Be aware somewhere there will be a moment where you have to say, oh, wait, there's also the others. And if they make that click faster than the average manager does, because they only do it after many years of not realizing that they have to do it, I think they could be even more successful, even faster.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I remember, dare to jump, dare to fail, and don't try to do it all by yourself. It was great to have you here. Thank you so much for your insights. Next up, join us on the main stage to talk with Pierre van Dam on Vaccinopolis. Kristina Kachojova will speak on the future stage about what it takes to become a female founder. And our partners of ING and Accountable will share some insights on the future of fintech. See you in a minute.